All right. Hello, this is Wmpyr here to talk about the Book of Five Rings. Of course, it is written by the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. So let me start off with a basic. Earth represents the physical world and our place in it. Water symbolizes adaptability and the importance of flowing with the currents of life. And then fire represents combat and conflict, both internal and external. Wind symbolizes tradition in the past. And void, the last one, represents the unknown. So we have earth, water, fire, wind, and void. Very, very interesting that it's based off of, like, what is that, the five elements, kind of? Very cool. So the first one, Earth, which it says it represents the physical world and our place in it. Earth is like, the way that I see it is like you want to be well grounded, right? Because without Earth, without understanding Earth is like you're studying martial arts. How are you going to use it, to me? What kind of situations? That is what the modern day where you live in represents. So if you don't know your physical world and your place in it, so then this is the problem that I have with a lot of modern day self-defense, where they say, someone messes with me, I'm going to take out my gun and I'm going to shoot them. Or I'm going to take out my knife and I'm going to stab them in the eye. I'm going to take their life, or something like that, You're not understanding your place in the physical world. If that's your attitude, there's no way you truly, well, I guess, to be truly that ignorant and say, someone messes with me, that's what I'm going to do. When I was walking around thinking I was the baddest guy, wherever I went, and I'm not even talking about weapons. I'm just talking about just empty hand fighting, right? And I'm talking about street fighting. I'm talking about like a contest. What recently someone said on my YouTube channel is a mutual combat. So that's what I'm talking about, where it's like, hey, are you a man? Then put up your dukes. Let's go, kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about like I'm going to curb stomp your face, or I'm going to stab you, with my knife, or that. Not talking about stuff like that, just like more like respectful, honorable fighting. And even then, right? Even with that, which should be, my point is, that should be a lot more doable and easy to do than blowing someone's head off, right? And even that did not come by so quick and easy. And I would think that even someone like Tank Abbott, who was a known street fighter, even that guy found out that you just can't be getting into street fights left and right. I'm sure he did, and he says he did. He got into a lot of street fights, but even then, he knows he had to change. He had to change. So in many ways, he's lucky to still be alive, and I think he realizes that now. So the Book of Five Rings, the earth element, tells me, you want to be, if you really want to live the warrior way, you got to be well grounded with reality. So that's understanding the laws, that's understanding your place in society, that's understanding, what kind of situations you're going to be dealing with. That, to me, is very, very earth, to help you ground yourself in reality. Okay. Very important, right? You want to be truthful and realistic, effective, all that kind of stuff, practical. So next is water. Water symbolizes adaptability and the importance of flowing with the currents of life. So life is dynamic, life changes. Life today, 2023, versus I remember growing up in the 90s, 80s. It's not the same. Things have changed. The people have changed. People's minds, attitudes. In some ways, people today are very intolerable, very angry, I've noticed, COVID did not help. So being able to, you got to adapt to that, right? And even like we can go back to Earth, and in Earth, you're trying to figure out how to be more realistic. You're trying to figure out truthful honesty, how to, what Bruce Lee said, honestly express yourself. So if you're training in the dojo and you feel awesome, and then you go, wait a minute. The truth is, how much of that can I really, really use in real life? How much of that is really applicable in real life self-defense situations? And how much of that is me just, being able to dominate someone because of my ego in a sport environment, in a mutual combat environment. So I think being able to adapt is extremely important in that sense, because that is part of the world we live in. So earth and water, in that sense, to me, are very closely related. But yes, we do have to adapt. Now, next is fire. Fire seems like the polar opposite of water, just element-wise, because fire and water, they don't really mix well together. But let's see, fire represents combat and conflict, both internal and external. So once again, like in our pursuit of realistic self-defense, what can I really, really do honestly? I think you got to be able to understand your conflict. And it says internal and external. Like I see some people, talk about it. There's like Bruce Lee haters today, which is unthinkable back then because, everyone loved Bruce Lee. But today, now there's like Bruce Lee haters and stuff. And I said this before. It's like, do you really hate Bruce Lee, or is it the ignorant fanboys that go, Bruce Lee's God, he's the best ever, and you bring up anything else and they don't listen to you and they go, no, Bruce Lee's the best. Bruce Lee, had it figured out way before anybody, and they just put him like in this unbeatable pedestal, and their attitude, not of Bruce Lee, but the Bruce Lee fans, the ignorant fanboys, the people that idolize him, isn't that what you're really against? It's not you're against Bruce Lee. You're against that, or UFC, let's say. Some people really, really dislike MMA, maybe because it's so popular or whatever. But a lot of times I feel like they don't like the ignorant fanboys that are like, MMA is the best style, that kind of attitude, that kind of closed-minded, ignorant, and we have the answer, everything's solved. We don't need to look at any other style. Those are all a waste of time. That kind of really ignorant attitude is what you're against, not necessarily MMA, So that's understanding your own fire. Your why am I upset at this? Why do I have conflict here? Why do I have, And so for me, luckily, I've never had that. I've seen it. Like I've had buddies that, like I remember I had he was a friend, a dear friend, and he was also my martial arts instructor in a certain style. And this guy did not like MMA. He especially did not like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, did not like the Gracies and all that. And he just had a problem with them. And I've known several where they just did not like the Gracies at all. And, me personally, if I had that attitude, I could not train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and fortunately, I didn't have that attitude. Now, there's plenty of things that I don't agree with the Gracie family, but I was able to appreciate what they brought to the table, and they brought amazing stuff to the table. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was one of the styles that I studied for a very long time. I'm not saying I'm good, but I did spend a lot of time there, and partially that's because I was no good at it. I had to. It took me a long time, but anyway, so being able to understand, what is the problem I'm having, this fire, right? And to be able to objectively look at it. Do I really have a problem with this person? So also in a street situation We could look at someone says something to you, and you look at them, and it might make you rage, right? Or attitude, or whatever. So, or road rage. Or, you could instantly get rage, but being able to control that, being able to understand that and go, you know what, this is going nowhere. All this is going to do, this road rage incident is going to put me in a situation where it's very risky, because today, who knows, this guy might get scared and pull out a gun. And if they shoot me, even though they're wrong at doing that, wrong or right, legal or illegal, I'm the one that got shot. I may die. So, that's something I got to live with now, or may not live with, So, is that risk worth it? For what? To prove my point, to prove that I'm right, that they broke traffic laws, or whatever, So anger, being able to understand fire, I think is also important there. And anger used properly can be very, very powerful. Like, anger could be a great motivator, So the next after that is wind. Wind symbolizes tradition in the past. So then to me, that's what he's saying there is wind is like, it's a ghost. Traditions in the past, that's a ghost. In other words, it's the history. We have to value our history. So that's another problem I see in a lot of today's martial arts world is, I already said, like, people, like, they don't like certain styles, whatever. I don't like MMA, or I don't like Sistema, or I don't like Aikido, or whatever. People are saying stuff like that, and it's like, what's really the problem here? You should look at your own anger. Why are you being so disrespectful? What are you angry about? And they're like, I can't stand it when they're teaching stuff that's going to get you killed in the streets. It's like, nobody has the answer. That's a very difficult situation. That's a very, very difficult question. So, to be intolerable towards something like that, and you don't know if that other person they're working their way, so maybe right now they don't have the answer yet, but they're working their way. And if they're doing it in a humble manner, there should be nothing wrong with that. But if they're acting like, I have the answer, everybody else is wrong, that's a problem. That, and to me, that's just a very insecure individual. I don't like that kind of marketing. If they're doing it just for marketing, and they realize that they're full of BS, and they're just doing that, they're going, this will get you killed in the street. Don't do other martial arts styles. Our way is the way. That's I cannot back that kind of marketing. But anyway, so history, some of these other styles like traditional martial arts and stuff, they have history. We have to study history, or else, the famous saying is, you're bound to repeat the same mistakes. So history is indeed very important. And I think that the wind is talking about that. So for me, I'm working on my own stuff, but I frequently go back to traditional martial arts. And obviously my main traditional martial arts is Escrima, Kali, Arnis, Kia, Kali, Escrima, Arnis. But, like, for example, I just started doing Kung Fu. I can't even really, just online, following some exercises. And just with some of the knowledge that I've already have from cross-training with Kung Fu people in the past and stuff, it's very interesting, and I feel like it helps me, just study and understand stuff better that what I'm doing today, because it comes from all that, and I'm looking at, like, for instance, today in the Kung Fu exercises, we were doing a lot of leg exercises, kind of like warming up for kicks. We did some kicks and stuff. And one of the famous Shaolin stances is you got one knee up, your hands like this right here, and that kind of stance. And really, like, I know that they block kicks that way. You know what other style does that? It's Muay Thai kickboxing. They block kicks that way. It's called a leg check. So, but with Kung Fu, they like really, really exaggerate the form more, and they bring it up really, really high, and they hold it there. They practice doing stuff like that. So then, like in Muay Thai kickboxing, there's a part where up to here you take it with both arms, and I've heard kickboxers laugh and criticize at that. That's an antiquated stance. For me, street's important. So if in the street, there's no weight class, so the guy might be bigger, and if the guy kicks me, I'm gonna want both arms. In my own weight class, I might be able to get away with one arm. But if the guy kicks really hard, or like I said, if it's a weight class, couple of weight classes above me, he might be able to snap the bone in my arm. So I still like the old school, the Cobra, this kind of thing. I don't think there's anything to laugh at that. But this protects upper body, and then the legs protect the lower body. You bring up you do the leg check, you bring up your knee. But then there's the middle ground that's iffy, right? So if you practice it like the Shaolin style or the Kung Fu style, your knee's way up here. So, that to me, that was like, that's awesome. That would help you in Thai boxing. And I'm sure there are some really good Thai boxers that could do that. But, when the Thai boxing, the Muay Thai training that I had, I never really, thought to bring my leg all the way up like that, So anyway, just interesting things to think about and appreciate. I think the strong word here is appreciate. Is you look at the past and you see connections like that. So like the other day I was seeing connections with the Kung Fu and the Kalari Payatu, the style from India, which some say is the mother of martial arts. The birthplace of martial arts is India or whatever. But just seeing the Kalari guys like go into really low yoga type stances, and then in the Shaolin they do similar like very, very low stances. And so a sequence we did today, we went from basically almost like a reverse punch type stance into a front kick into a very low stance like that, where you're punching sideways. So now you get into like a sideways mabu, which is the horse stance. And one of the things that's interesting to me is if you are going to get into a low stance, it kind of makes sense to do it when you're close to the opponent, because your center of gravity is low. And people that don't understand that form might look at it and go, "Why would you go low? I'm a Muay Thai kickboxer. You go low, I'm just going to kick your face. I'm going to kick you down." But the thing is, when you're close to the opponent, you go low. Now, I mean, you're talking about the basic 101 grappling. If the person's hip is lower than yours, it's going to be difficult to throw. Why do you think the sumo wrestlers, get into those kinds of low stances? Because they're bringing down their center of gravity, so it's harder to throw them. Now, it kind of goes with that kind of logic there to get down low once you're in close, so you're grappling prepared, but they added a strike to go with it. I mean, it's just, for me, it made a lot of sense tactics-wise. And once again, I can appreciate Kung Fu that way. Whereas before, when I was younger, I might have thought, "Oh, this is dumb." My Muay Thai techniques are superior. I would have thought something like that. But that was my ignorance speaking. So anyway, you don't want to ignore history. You want to go back to history. So with Filipino martial arts, like I said, Kia is traditional. Kali, Escrima, Arnis is still, there's a very strong element of tradition there, even though there's modern tactical elements there too, like using folding knives and stuff, tactical batons and stuff, but or a machete. But still, there's still a very strong traditional style. And then for me, one of the most interesting things that I like to do frequently is try to imagine hundreds of years ago when the conquistadors came to the Philippines, or even before that when they were doing tribal warfare. How did they fight? How did they evolve? What happened when they met, when they were doing trades with Indonesia, or trading with China, and they met kung fu people, and they exchanged knowledge and stuff. I like to think about stuff like that, imagine that, and try to logically piece together some clues. Just I'm not saying that I have theories, because theories is based off of experiments, and you're forming some sort of evidence to back up your hypothesis that you've done over and over again, to where now you could solidify and call it a theory. What I'm doing here is I am imagining, and almost like virtual exercise in that sense. So anyway, you don't want to confuse the two. So now the last one is void, right? And I remember back when I read the Book of Five Rings a long time ago, when he was talking about void and stuff, and of course void represents the unknown. Okay, that sounds all easy enough. And I was like, what the hell does that really mean? And yes, in life there are things that unexpected things happen. But now looking at it, I feel like void represents the unknown, which means it's the future. The future is unknown. So we just talked about wind, which was, I said, that's the past, and now it's the future. And the rest before that, the earth, water, and fire, that's present, right? So that's present time, and just thinking about the future. The future is unexpected stuff, and going into that, things that you cannot predict. So to me, what's important there is, like, people talk about, like, I'm going to do this technique, I'm going to do that technique. What if that doesn't work? And a big life lesson for me came from a dream. And this is another thing. I know I'm going all over the place, but bear with me if you can. Dream training is something that I value very much. So even while I'm dozing off to sleep, during those times, I want to be training. So I don't care if it's a virtual fight. In my dreamscape, I am fighting someone, and getting in practice for my nervous system, like reflexes and timing and all that kind of stuff. But one lesson here, one of the most valuable lessons that I had was, in my dream, many years ago, I got into a street fight. And in this street fight, it was one-on-one. I took the guy down. I was on top. And this was when I was doing a lot of BJJ. So I got side mount. And then I put the guy in what is called Americana. Top wrist lock. So it's a paintbrush key lock or whatever. So Americana. This is the Kimura. This is the Americana. So I got him in a Americana. And I remember going, this is the street, dude. I could hear like sirens. I could see, the buildings, the wall going all the way up, and the black sky. And it was nighttime, and it just, anybody could be running this way. Someone could see us and go, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to stomp on this guy, stomp on that guy, take both of their wallets. Who knows? Who knows, right? So I'm going, I cannot stay here long. And this guy, I'm on top of him, and I'm getting this lock, and he's tough. So I'm getting tired, of course. And I was like, if I let go, he's going to get on top. He's going to reverse me, and then I'm going to be in trouble. So I need to be here. I need to finish this guy. So I got this key lock, and I'm cranking, and I'm trying to finish. Nothing. I don't even feel things ripping, or that he seems fine. He seems completely fine. So I'm going, I'm in trouble. What do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know. It's supposed to finish the guy, and it's not. So I started like sweating, freaking cold sweat, and then, breathing hard and going, oh man, he's going to reverse me. Someone's going to come. I don't have time. I need to finish. It was a lot of pressure. Didn't know what to do. And I woke up like, like terrified. And that's when I said to myself, all right, That is the truth. There is no guarantee you're going to get a finish. I don't care how good you are with the move. You never know that this dude is, extra flexible, or that's his favorite move to resist or counter, or you never know. So there's no guarantee with any move. Every move has a counter, the same thing. There's also every move has no guarantee. So then that's when I started in training, I started not finishing people. So even though I could probably tap this person out, I wouldn't. I would imagine, what if I couldn't? So then I just hold it, and I, like, let's say an armbar, and I wouldn't crank it. I would just hold the armbar. And what I found was, when you hold the armbar, it's way harder than just tap the guy out and then we restart and then just go again, right? It's so much harder to just try to hold the armbar, not let him escape. And by doing that, my skill of the armbar got better. And then also from there, like, sometimes because it would keep going, I'd have to learn how to recover the position. So abandon the armbar, get back to mount or something, So in that sense, it actually improved my skills. If I get the submission, great. And if I don't, not a problem. Why? Because I'm used to not getting the finish, So that's one thing. Now you might go, well, what if you get in the habit of that? It actually happened. Ken Shamrock claimed that happened to him in the Kimbo fight, that he kind of wasn't used to, getting cranking and finishing. So he kind of didn't. And so he called it kind of like ring rust or something. So then I started worrying about that. Like, what if, I'm in a situation where I can and I should, and I don't. So I'm my own worst enemy. Then it's like, okay, then I need to work on killer instinct, So it's just multiple, one lesson leads to another lesson, and you just keep going. So martial arts has been a very exciting and fun lifelong puzzle for me in that sense. And you just keep going and going, travel the same paths, sometimes new paths, travel in different orders. It's just all kinds of exploring, and it keeps my mind very, very active, entertained in that sense. And it's to me, I've always said Martia, short for martial arts, Martia, has kept me out of trouble, and has been a great girlfriend in that sense when I was single, and especially in my younger days, just kept me out of trouble, just focusing on Martia. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.